A rabbi invited the mayor of his town to spend a Shabbat with his family. The rabbi made Kiddush Friday night on a full cup of wine. Then after the fish, he made a l'chaim on some fine scotch. The main course came with Israeli wine. They said grace after meals with another cup of wine. The next day in shul, after services, they made Kiddush on wine, followed by herring, crackers, and a few l'chaims on schnapps. They went home, and the rabbi made Kiddush for his family on another cup of wine, some l'chaims after the fish, a nice single malt scotch with the cholent, and some more wine with the grace after meals. And when it got dark, the rabbi made Havdalah on yet another cup of wine. Then over supper, they enjoyed some more wine and Scotch whiskey. The mayor said to the rabbi, "Thank you so much for sharing your Shabbat with me. I had a wonderful time. And while I still don't understand why you cannot turn the lights on and off, I definitely understand why you cannot drive on Shabbat." Why are these high holy days different from other high holy days? No, this is not a question left over from Pesach, but we are all well aware that these high holidays are different from anything we have experienced in our lifetime. Some of us are here in person, but the vast majority of our congregation is watching on live stream. And although we are not able to all be physically together, we still have the opportunity to come together as a community as we usher in this new Jewish year of 5,781. These high holidays may be different, but I hope they will still uplift us spiritually and bring meaning to our lives. We are living in uncertain times. We are living in uncertain times on many levels. In 45 days, Americans from all walks of life will have their votes counted to elect a president, 35 senators, and the entire House of Representatives. The polarization that we are experiencing at this moment leads us all to be unsettled. In some states, voting has already begun. Here in New Jersey, there is still time to register to vote, as our deadline is Tuesday, October 13th. I encourage you to vote and exercise your constitutional rights, anticipating the election, fearing the results of the election, anticipating more animosity between us and our fellow citizens causes us all some trepidation. Our country continues to experience the problem of racism. Although there have been many achievements in this area, there is much more to do. 4 years ago, I gave a sermon on the challenges of racism in America, and unfortunately, it is necessary for me to bring this issue up again. We have heard in the news about the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and the paralyzing of Jacob Blake by police officers. There are many similar incidents that have taken place in the years since I last discussed this topic with you. And although we are grateful to our police officers who watch out for us and take care of us every day, I do believe that there is systematic racism in law enforcement that must be addressed once and for all. It is clear from the many peaceful protests that have taken place over the last few months that Americans are demanding action in this area. That being said, those who choose to engage in violent protests and looting should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And then there is COVID-19. It's hard to believe that it is over 6 months now that this pandemic has affected our lives every day. Who could have ever predicted that we would not be able to come together to celebrate Pesach with our family and friends, and that we would have to limit the number of us who could join in person in the sanctuary for the high holidays? Life cycle events such as bris, baby naming, b'nai mitzvah, weddings have been modified or postponed. Funerals are completely different, with the numbers of those who can attend limited, and sometimes family members having to join remotely because of the inability to travel. Chapel services have moved to Zoom, and Shiva calls are now made over a computer or outside. Religious school began this past week, with some students attending school in person and with others learning remotely on Sundays, and the entire school joining classes by Zoom on Wednesdays. This new hybrid method of learning is not exclusive to religious school. We are all well aware that right now in our community, some students are going to school remotely full-time. Many are striking some sort of balance between learning in school and at home, and a small number are actually in school 5 days a week. The work landscape has changed as well, with so many people not seeing the inside of their offices since March, exchanging their desks at work for their kitchen tables at home. Vacations have been canceled, gatherings with friends pared down and moved outdoors. Who knows when we will go to a Broadway show or a professional sporting event in person? And when will we be able to hug our relatives and friends again? When this pandemic began, Bethel Synagogue rose to the occasion. We immediately moved our weekday and Friday night services to Zoom and Facebook Live. In July, our Friday night and Saturday morning services began to live stream on our website. Religious school continued in a modified way. We offered many programs on Zoom, including Havdalah every Saturday night, which we have continued, except, of course, for tonight. We continued to provide for our members' needs and did not miss a beat. And when the stay-at-home orders were lifted, we established a synagogue reopening task force that has worked day and night to open up Bethel step by step in a very safe way. I cannot be more proud of the way in which we have achieved this. We were the first non-Orthodox congregation in Mercer County to open for in-person services, and we are the only non-Orthodox congregation in Mercer County to have in-person services for the high holidays. We never set out to be trendsetters or to lead the way in this area, but our task force felt if we could safely open in person, we should in fact do so, and we have. We are the only religious school in Mercer County to have an in-person learning opportunity. Our task force will continue to review having on-site meetings, programs, classes, other in-person functions, as well as the opening of the synagogue office. Our congregation should take great pride in our achievements. One of the things I have learned throughout this pandemic is the importance of community and why it is so critical to be part of a synagogue community. A synagogue community keeps us together no matter what. It is people who we can count on. It is where we come together, whether face to face or on Zoom, and give each other strength. It's where people know who we are and miss us when we are not there. The root of the word synagogue is sin. S-Y-N is the Greek prefix that implies togetherness. In Hebrew, synagogue is called a Beit Knesset, a place where people assemble. A congregation is where they come together, where they congregate. Synagogue has come to be not so much a place for people to find God, though that is important, but for Jews to find one another. Being part of a synagogue community can help alleviate the feelings of loneliness that many of us feel, especially during this pandemic. Dr. Kristen Conan, a Harvard Chan School psychiatric epidemiologist and expert in mental health impacts of trauma, said, quote, "Loneliness is a big concern, especially for people already isolated. We know it's toxic to health, not just mental health, but physical health. Loneliness is a state of mind. It causes people to feel empty, alone, and unwanted. Loneliness is not a new phenomenon. The Torah refers to it in the second account of creation when it says, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. It's not good for a person to be alone. Loneliness, as we all know, has been exacerbated by COVID-19, and we must try to find a way to help confront it. Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, who lived in the 20th century and who taught for over 50 years at the Jewish Theological Seminary and then established the Reconstructionist movement, said that the primary purpose of a synagogue is to combat loneliness and to weld Jews who live in the neighborhood into a conscious community. Now that Jews live in many neighborhoods, the synagogue's function as a unifying element becomes even more important than it was in Kaplan's day. Community is essential to Jewish existence. Community is essential protection against loneliness. In a synagogue community, we help each other cry and we help each other laugh. We celebrate life's joys and comfort each other during sad and challenging times. We did this before COVID-19. We continue to do it during COVID-19, and we will continue to do it after COVID-19. This is what we do as a Kehillah Kedoshah, a holy community. In light of the pandemic, we need to care about others in ways that we have never done before. We need to reach out to members of our congregation and see how they are doing and how they are feeling in these very challenging times. If we are comfortable, we can visit with others outside. We can invite a member of the congregation to join us on a Zoom class or program so it can be done together. Each of us has the opportunity through our actions and our deeds to bring some light into the lives of others. We may not be able to rid others of loneliness, but we can bring light into dark places and help others navigate this pandemic. As we usher in this new year of 5,781, we continue living in uncertain times with the upcoming election, racism, COVID-19, and the list goes on and on. We need the certainty of the synagogue community to be there for us now more than ever before. It is through the synagogue, whether in person or through Zoom or live stream, that we are able to connect with one another and care for one another. In one way or another, each of us is experiencing loneliness. The Torah reminds us, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. It's not good for a person to be alone. Let us each do our part to help others so that they will no longer feel alone, by reaching out, by calling, by visiting, by assisting in any way that we can, so that when this pandemic is behind us, and it will be behind us one day, we will be an even stronger community than we were before COVID-19 entered our lives. We can brighten the lives of others and help make this challenging time a little more bearable. Let us show one another how the power of community can truly make a difference and transform our lives today and for all the tomorrows to come. Shana Tova.